It's worth this moment in time checking back in on, of course, Ben Houchen, because oh boy, has there been some quite major news that went once again criminally underreported at a national level. However, once again at a local level has been, I think, reported extremely well and highlights the fact why local journalism, local newspapers, things like the Byline Times, as we're going to go to here, are just so important. Covering local news stories, covering local issues that never, ever see the light of day if they were to come to national attention. And this has been the case time and time and time again when we've seen, especially Ben Houchen and the Freeport at Tees Valley, where once again he staked his entire political reputation and career on getting that Tees Valley done. And yet, time and time and time again, so much stuff comes out, rolling out every single time. Private Eye done amazing reporting on what's been going on there. They are refusing to let go. And when Private Eye are like that, they know or can sense there's a story there for sure. The Yorkshire Post done some amazing reporting on what's been going on the Tees Valley on that side as well. So just a few, and there are again, I think I can't remember what the local Hull paper is called as well. They've been done some also good reporting on what's been going on over there as well. Because honestly, some of this stuff crazy, but now we get an absolute bombshell because the government has audited stuff there, and they are, to no one's surprise, if you've been following this, finding out, yeah, things are not as all they seem. So the government has basically responded and gone, okay, until all this is cleared up, no more devolution, no more, we're going to withhold funding until all this audit stuff gets sorted out. So we're getting closer and closer to that point, I think, of like the major scandal around Ben Houchen being massively reported and him being finally given the boot from office. That's if he doesn't resign first, but we'll see what happens on that front. But before we go over that, please do, like I say, click the like, share, and subscribe button. Down, of course, below there is the Patreon page, the One Upstation link called Buy Me Coffee. We can all buy me coffee, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, as always, there's the Pony Club down below as well. So let's crack on then into this. So this from the Northeast Byline Times, the title of the Government Audit Bombshell for Houchen's Tees Valley. So Ben Houchen's Tees Valley Combined Authority has now been warned by the government that it could now that it cannot now expect to progress any further down its devolution path until it clears up its audit problems. It now faces a new tight set of deadlines that have also warned now that the trust in its finances now will take years to rebuild. Its funding may be restricted and could maybe even see further statutory action if it fails to improve. And this isn't new. This has been going on such a long time. But the thing is, with a conservative government, they were fine to just sweep that under the rug and just think, nothing to see over there, nothing to see over there. But many of these problems on there about the Tees Valley Authority, what's been going on at the Freeport, has been going on for such a long time. And Houch has been able to get away with it because the Conservatives have been in power. Like, it does really seem now we are getting to a point, really does seem like we are getting to a point where all this is slowly going to come to a head. So Angela Rayner, for Minister for Housing, Communities and Local Government, said that the Tees Valley external auditors, Ernst & Young, have now together dealt the most severest blow yet to the combined authority and the South Tees Development Corporation. Both bodies have now been at the centre for long-running scandals over the Tees Works at Redcar, Britain's largest brownfield regeneration site. The affair has obviously been well documented by the Northeast Bylines and others now for over 2 years. The TVA and Cabinet now will hold an extraordinary meeting on the 14th of May, so that's tomorrow. So expect me to be covering possibly even more stuff that's going to happen on tomorrow. That it will be presented now with 2 letters from the governmental chair and, of course, by the auditors. The EY has submitted over 3 different statutory recommendations to the ministry and to the TVA's accountants to the Northeast Bylines reported back on the 21st of February. It was considering doing and stipulating action that the TCA must take. Those are strengthening its finance team so it can carry out now its audit work paperwork to meet its regarding reporting obligations, to ensure that statutory requirements for the public inspection of accounts are satisfied, and setting out a clear timetable for the producement of the 2024-25 statement of the accounts, including now the annual government statement, embarking on the deadlines for public inspection and completion of the audits now to be met. The first deadline that the authority must meet and to consider these recommendations is, of course, a public meeting by the 14th of May, which will consider it now being taking them into an extraordinary cabinet meeting by which the public will be next Wednesday, the last possible day. The officials are recommending that the auditor's recommendations be accepted in full. If approved, they will be incorporated into the best value notice improvement plan. So you may remember last time we were talking about this, they'd been slapped with that best value notice. That is what has upset the apple cart, shall we say, for Houchen on a range of stuff. Other, of course, significant deadlines are, of course, the public inspection period of the accounts must start between the 1st of July and the audit to be completed by the 3rd of November. The letter also reports very repeated delays and difficulties in completing the audit, saying we've only received a limited engagement from the authority on the planning for our 2024-25 audit and encountered over a number of different challenges being able to progress with our audit planning procedures, which is of concern. To imagine that something is going on there, that they are stopping the audit from being carried out. It really feels like that. It really does. But they continued. They warned the process now to rebuild assurance over the authority's financial statements following over 3 years of disclaimed audit options will take over several years. It is therefore important that the period from which the audit procedures can be completed does not extend beyond the 31st of March 2024. And then, of course, those were, of course, the comment and the letter from the private auditor that was sent in. But what about the government? Because they've been following up on this as well. Damning, of course, though the Ernest Young letter is, the real sting is going to be coming from the Cabinet Office. Writing to the Chief Executive, Tom Brandt, the ministry states that the relatively now innocuous statement that this notice is a formal notification that the department now has concerns regarding your authority and requests the authority engages with the department to provide assurances of improvement. The department expects auditors that have now been issued with the best value notice to continue leaning now on their own improvement. It adds that these concerns relate primarily now to governance, culture, partnerships, and continuous improvements. The reference to partnerships may mean the very controversial joint venture partnership between the SDC and the 2 businessmen that now have a 90% stake in the Teesworks. Again, that should have never have been allowed to happen at all. The ministry will, of course, look to local government association and auditors now for the updates of the broader assurances that necessary changes are being made now to sufficient place and review of the position now in the next 12 months. The cabinet letter concludes with a very clear warning about Tees Valley's future progress down the devolution path and the nuanced warning about its own funding future. We are now very conscious that the decision will have implications for the authority's progress towards enhanced mayoral strategic authority, a status we're gaining now of an integrated settlement, either now being through a single funding pot for the region of these functions. While the authority may continue to receive and be awarded government funding whilst under this notice, it would of course emphasize the receipt of those funding does not include the department's broader view of the performance of the authority, nor would it indicate the changes in the status of this notice, of which the individual funding programs have all been managed to be assuredly independently by the respective departments. Failure now to demonstrate continuous improvement may be judged as a contribution to now the best value failure, and the Secretary of State will consider using statutory powers where appropriate. So things could start to get very, very interesting. And honestly, as we said, when that burst value notice came out, we are now getting to the point where you could see the government auditors being sent in, because this is being done very much by the book. Because the next step, if they don't improve, if they can't show that they have improved, that they have done stuff to improve as authority, the next step's the auditors. And there'll be government auditors, and they will overlook at every single nook and cranny of what's been going on here. That is the last thing Houchen wants. But he has to show that there's been improvements on this. And then at that point, you've got to ask, at what point is someone going to go, oh, but here's this? And they go, hey, what's that? That's not right. Bear in mind, a lot of the stuff that has been uncovered has been by journalists looking at information, or even the lack of information that Houchen has either released or not released, then leading to a Freedom of Information Request Act to have a look at that document, which has then led to a lot of this reporting on just how bad the stuff is really going on up there. So this is, of course, very much a bombshell for the authority, even in the context now of the shocks it has experienced now over the past 2 years as a result of all the TeaseWorks scandal. It now progresses now further toward devolution has now been halted. Its future government funding will probably be at a minimum. Confidence in its accounts will, of course, take years to rebuild, and any faces now further statutory action if it, of course, fails to improve, possibly even a takeover of the running of the authority by government commissioners. That ultimately could be what happens. This is, of course, principally down to one man, Mayor Ben Houchen, not only because now of the formal elected position he holds, but also now as the dominant personality he has created now for himself. And that is very, very true. Ben Houchen, to give a brief background for this, viewed this as his chance to say, look how good I was in this mayoralship. I should be an MP. Oh, I should be a leader of the party. This was all his building to be that. If all these disasters, all these scandals keep on coming up, he can kiss that goodbye. And pretty much that has been done. I cannot believe he will ever be allowed, A, to be an MP, or if he is allowed to be an MP, he'll be resigned pretty much to the backbenchers and told, you're not allowed to be in charge of anything because of how badly this went. Like, it is only a matter of time, I think, before we start to really see something. And honestly, it's going to make the TeaseWorks scandal, I think, look like small potatoes. So he's made created for himself, his cabinet, and of course the backbench councillors on the TCA's overview and scrutiny audit governance committees cannot, of course, escape their own share of the blame due to now the very feeble control and security they have themselves exercised. So, yeah, Ben Houchen, I honestly think his days are numbered now. I honestly think his days are numbered. He cannot carry on in that role. I partially think he's going to resign, and then he'll trigger a by-election. I honestly think that's where this is going to go. Honestly, it feels that way. Get while the getting's good. At least then, when it all does blow up, you're not there to, should we say, fully take the heat. And yet, he'll take the blame for stuff, absolutely. He is responsible for a lot of the mess going on up there. But he won't be there to, should we say, face the responsibility for that. That will be left to someone else. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, click the like, click the share button on your way out. And of course, we'll see you all next time.